The morning came slowly, shrouded not in the golden warmth of sunrise, but in the restless murk of a storm. Heavy clouds pressed low over the village, their bellies swollen and bruised with shifting shades of violet and gray. The first weak light of dawn filtered through in patches, but it carried no comfort, only a dim glow that made the crooked roofs and narrow lanes look colder, older, and more brittle than the day before. A damp wind swept through the square, rattling shutters and bending the thin branches of the elm trees that lined the cobblestones. The smell of rain was sharp in the air, mingling with the faint, acrid tang of smoke, still clinging to the chimneys from the night's fires. Villagers stirred reluctantly, doors creaking open as men and women stepped out with hoods pulled over their heads, eyes lifted uneasily to the sky. They were used to storms, but this one felt different, heavier somehow, as though the air itself sagged with the promise of something breaking. At the center of the square stood the old bell tower, its silhouette stark against the storm-thick sky. Built generations ago, it rose tall and narrow, its stonework darkened by age and countless seasons of wind and rain. The great bronze bell within hung silent, though the villagers knew its voice well. It had tolled at weddings and funerals, at harvest festivals, and warnings of fire. Now it loomed above them with a mute kind of menace, its shape half lost in the shifting mist. As the first growl of thunder rolled across the hills, the villagers pulled their coats tighter and quickened their steps. It was not yet raining, but the air carried that peculiar weight, the kind that presses on the chest, that whispers of danger still hidden, waiting to reveal itself. None among them guessed that the tower they passed each day, the very heart of their square, had begun to betray its strength. And so, the village woke beneath storm clouds, their lives moving as always, unaware that the first sound to cut through the morning would not be thunder, nor the toll of the bell, but something far stranger, a relentless cry from the sky itself. The first caw shattered the uneasy stillness of the square, sharp and grating, slicing through the heavy dawn air with unnatural force. Heads turned upward as the cry echoed again, louder this time, bouncing off the stone walls of the houses and carrying far beyond the square. Perched on the weathered crossbeam of the bell tower was a crow, black as soot against the pale, storm-tossed sky. Its wings twitched restlessly, feathers bristling in the wind, and its eyes gleamed like polished coal as it threw its head back and cried once more. Caw, caw, caw. The sound was relentless, each note jagged and insistent, refusing to be ignored. The villagers frowned, some covering their ears, others muttering superstitions under their breath. Crows were not unusual here, but they did not linger long in the square. They came for scraps, for carrion, for fleeting moments before vanishing into the woods. This one, however, seemed rooted to the tower, its whole body vibrating with urgency as it screamed again and again. A few children peered out from doorways, their eyes wide. Old Marta, who had seen more storms than most, made the sign against evil and spat on the cobblestones. A warning, she whispered, though no one dared ask of what. Farmers shook their heads and pulled their caps lower, trying to pretend it was nothing more than a nuisance. Yet their gazes returned, almost unwillingly, to the black figure above them, whose cry refused to be dismissed. The crow shifted suddenly, wings spreading wide for a moment, as though to take flight, but it only flapped once, settled again, and screamed louder still. Its talons scraped against the old wood beneath it, claws digging in with the force of its agitation. The great bell above it swayed faintly in the wind, groaning in its aged cradle, and the sound mingled with the crow's calls until the air itself seemed filled with warnings. By now the square had gathered more souls than usual for such an early hour, drawn not by routine but by the noise. Men stood with tools half forgotten in their hands, women clutched baskets pressed against their hips, all eyes rising again and again toward the bird that would not stop. Above them, lightning flashed faintly in the storm clouds, and thunder rumbled once more, low and grim. Still the crow cried, "Relentless," as though it alone understood the danger hidden in the stones towering over the square. By now the square was no longer empty. One by one, Villagers, drawn by the harsh, unending cries, drifted from their homes, leaving chores and breakfasts unfinished. They gathered in small knots, their voices low but uneasy, eyes never straying far from the bell tower where the crow raged against the morning. Its caws came so fast and loud, they seemed to scrape against the ear, echoing through the narrow streets until it felt as though the whole village vibrated with the sound. Some tried to laugh it off, muttering that the bird had simply lost its mind, but even their humor sounded thin and brittle. Others glanced nervously at one another, whispering old tales of omens carried by black-feathered messengers. A few children clung tightly to their mother's skirts, flinching with every cry. The storm clouds swirled heavier above, dimming the weak light of dawn into something more like twilight. A gust of wind rattled shutters and sent loose leaves spinning across the cobblestones. It also stirred the tower's great bronze bell, which gave a long, tired groan as it shifted in its frame. The sound was deep, mournful, and when it mingled with the crow's shrieking, it set the crowd shivering. Old Marta raised her voice above the murmurs, her cane tapping sharply against the stones. "The bird sees what we do not," she warned. "Mark my words. When a crow refuses silence, it is not for nothing." The younger men scoffed, though uneasily. "It's just a storm," one said. "The thunder spooks it." Yet even as he spoke, his eyes flicked upward at the leaning tower, lingering too long. The longer they stared, the more the villagers felt it. Something was not right. The tower had always been old, always been weather-worn, but today its silhouette seemed different, its edges too sharp against the storm sky, its stonework darker, as though sweat ran from its seams. The crow screamed again, wings spreading wide, its body jerking forward as though trying to hurl its warning into the very bones of those below. One man shifted uncomfortably, muttering, "Maybe we should take a closer look." And though none spoke it aloud, every villager felt the same heavy thought pressing at the edges of their minds. Perhaps the birds' cries were not madness at all, but a summons to notice what danger their eyes had not yet found. The villagers shifted closer to the base of the bell tower, their shoes splashing in shallow puddles as the storm's drizzle began to fall. The crow had not stopped. Its cawing grew harsher, more frantic, as though each cry was a lash meant to drive them back. Yet curiosity pulled them forward, their necks craning, their eyes sweeping the height of the ancient stone spire that loomed above the square. At first, nothing seemed amiss. The tower stood as it always had, proud and solemn, its stones darkened by centuries of rain and lichen. The great bell hung silently in its cradle, rocking faintly with each gust of wind. But then, as a fork of lightning split the clouds in the distance, the flash revealed something none had seen before. A jagged line running down the tower's side, stark and unmistakable against the slick stone. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A young boy tugged at his father's sleeve, pointing with wide eyes. "Oh, there, look." The fissure ran from just beneath the bell's chamber downward, cutting deep between the weathered blocks. It was narrow but long, a scar that seemed to widen with every groan of the wind. Rain trickled into it, and when the thunder rolled again, a fine spray of dust fell from the crack, sprinkling the cobblestones below. The murmurs turned to alarm. Some stepped back instinctively, while others pressed closer to see, their voices rising in a tangle of fear and disbelief. "It's splitting," someone whispered. "The whole tower's giving way." Above them, the crow shrieked louder still, flapping its wings in furious bursts. The great bronze bell gave another ominous groan, shifting just enough to send shivers through the crowd. With each sway, the crack seemed to stretch further, tiny stones tumbling loose, clattering as they struck the square. Old Marta leaned heavily on her cane, her eyes wide. "The bird was right," she said, her voice trembling. "It's warning us. The tower's ready to fall." And in that moment, as another bolt of lightning turned the sky white, every villager understood the danger. The bell tower, the symbol of their village, was no longer a watchful guardian over their square. It was a giant poised to collapse, and only the relentless cries of a crow had made them look up in time. The villagers wavered at the base of the tower, torn between disbelief and the undeniable crack yawning wider before their eyes. The fissure seemed to breathe with the storm, groaning as the wind pressed against the old stones, shedding dust and pebbles with every gust. Still, some hesitated, unwilling to believe that the structure which had marked their weddings, their feasts, their very lives, could betray them so suddenly. But the crow would not allow hesitation. It screamed louder than ever, each caw tearing through the thunder like a blade. The bird leapt from its perch, circling the tower in a black blur before diving low over the crowd, wings thrashing the rain. It swooped and cried, driving them backward with a force more piercing than any human command. A man lifted his child into his arms and stepped back. Then another followed, tugging his wife by the wrist. Soon the movement spread like a tide. Their instincts, finally sparked, pulled them from the square. Even those who lingered were forced back as a shower of stone dust rained down, stinging their faces and marking the urgency of the moment. "Back! Away from the tower!" someone shouted, the words nearly drowned by the storm. The crow added its voice, shrieking from above, as if the creature itself understood the danger was moments away from bursting into disaster. The villagers stumbled to the far side of the square, huddling together beneath the eaves of houses, their eyes fixed upward. From their new distance, they could see how the crack had spread into a spider's web of fissures, veins of weakness crawling down the tower's side. The bronze bell rocked more violently now, straining its rusted supports, its deep groan rolling like a warning drumbeat across the square. Then came the sound that silenced even the storm, a low, grinding moan from deep within the tower's bones. It was the sound of stone shifting, of foundations giving way. Mothers clutched children close, men braced against the rain, and all waited with their breath held tight. Above them, the crow circled once more, its silhouette stark against the lightning-lit sky, as though it would not leave until the final truth was revealed. The tower was ready to fall. The grinding groan swelled into a roar as the tower's ancient stones shifted against one another, the crack yawning wider with a sickening tear. The storm lashed harder, rain pelting the square in sheets, thunder hammering above, as if the sky itself willed the collapse to come. Then, with a sound like the earth splitting open, the first stones gave way. The top of the tower shuddered violently, the great bronze bell swaying so hard it slammed against its frame with a booming toll that shook the villagers to their bones. Dust and shards of mortar rained down like hail, striking the cobblestones with sharp cracks. The fissures spread downward in jagged lines, crisscrossing the tower's face until it seemed stitched together by lightning itself. "Down!" someone screamed, though none needed the warning. The villagers pressed tight against the walls of the square, shielding their faces as the inevitable came. With one final lurch, the bell tower surrendered. The upper chamber broke apart in an explosion of stone and wood. The great bell wrenched free from its cradle. It plummeted with a deafening crash, striking the square where moments before the people had stood. The impact sent tremors rippling through the ground, the sound reverberating like thunder trapped inside the village walls. The rest followed in a cascade, the tower folding inward on itself, walls crumbling in jagged waves, blocks of stone tumbling and smashing against the square. Dust engulfed everything, rolling outward in a choking cloud that swallowed the villagers in darkness. Through the haze, the sound of breaking beams, twisting metal, and shattering stone blended into a single, monstrous roar. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. When the dust began to clear, the tower was gone. In its place lay a smoking heap of rubble, the bell half buried among broken stones, its once proud frame dented and cracked. The square was unrecognizable, strewn with fragments of wood, stone, and shattered glass. But the villagers were alive. Every one of them stood trembling at the edges of the square, spared only because the crow's cries had pulled them back in time. The bird itself emerged from the haze, wings beating hard as it wheeled once above the ruins. Its caw echoed through the silence, a harsh, final note that sounded almost like triumph. The storm ebbed with the slow weariness of a beast that had spent its fury. By the time the first pale light of true dawn broke over the hills, the thunder had rolled into the distance, leaving only a drizzle that fell softly over the ruins of the square. The air was thick with the scent of wet stone and charred wood, the acrid tang of mortar dust clinging to every breath. The villagers stepped cautiously from their shelter beneath the eaves, their boots squelching in the mud as they approached what remained of the tower. Where once a proud spire had risen, there now lay only a jagged heap of rubble, the stones blackened with rain and streaked with soot. The great bronze bell, scarred and cracked from its fall, lay half buried in the debris, its silent bulk a grim reminder of the night's violence. No voices rose in chatter, no one laughed. They simply stared, their faces pale, their eyes wide with the knowledge of what could have been. Had they lingered in the square just minutes longer, had they ignored the crow's relentless cries, they would have been crushed beneath the weight of centuries. The realization settled heavy in their chests, filling the silence more deeply than any words could. It was the children who saw it first. The crow, perched on a nearby roof, its feathers damp but its posture proud. It gave a final caw, not frantic now but steady, as though marking the end of its vigil. Then, with a strong beat of its wings, it lifted into the storm-cleansed sky, its black silhouette rising against the faint blush of dawn, before vanishing into the distance. The villagers watched it go, some crossing themselves, others bowing their heads in gratitude. Old Marta, leaning on her cane, broke the silence at last. "Never mock a warning," she said softly, "even if it comes from a creature we do not understand." Her words settled among them like scripture. From that day forward, whenever storms gathered and crows circled the rooftops, the villagers remembered the morning when a black-feathered sentinel had saved them from ruin. The bell tower would be rebuilt in time, but its story would always be tied to the bird whose voice had cried louder than thunder. And so, the village carried the memory of that stormy dawn, a reminder that salvation sometimes comes not from strength or foresight, but from heeding the voices that refuse to be silenced.